problem. You say you want to get people out of asylum hotels, but you went to court this week to keep an asylum hotel in Epping open. Your lawyers, under your guidance, have said in terms that the rights of asylum seekers are more important than the rights of local people in Epping Forest. Do you agree with what your lawyers said, or don't you?
Yes, of course we do. But what I would add is that...
As despicable as it is to be a British politician and say British people's rights come second to those of illegal immigrants, at least she actually admitted it. She only admitted it, however, because it was forced out of her, but that is more than others who always avoid the question. It's nothing we didn't already know, but there you have it from the mouth of Labour themselves. Well done, Trevor Phillips, for properly holding her to account and forcing her to answer questions. He absolutely tore her apart and made her look ridiculous. What this interview proves is Labour believe in international law over British law. They see human rights from a global perspective. They believe because there are millions of people around the world who are much worse off than people in Britain, their rights should come first. They don't see us as a country, but as a global piece of land that should prioritise people from the third world. That is why they will always side with illegal immigrants over the locals. Problem is, the British people who vote for them are the same people who pay their wages and pay for the country with their taxes. So the fact that they put illegal immigrants first shows you how much contempt they have for the British people. And this is how they want to remake the world under global socialism. No nations, no borders, just one big planet that belongs to everyone equally. And it's the responsibility of the rich parts of the world to import the third world and hand their land and prosperity over to them in the name of social justice. It's no coincidence the Japanese have taken to the streets now to protest, because they are now being flooded with third world immigrants they never asked for. If you love your country, want to see it survive in any recognisable form, where we have sensible levels of immigration, where only decent people can come, then you have no choice but to at least give reform a chance at the next election. Take a listen to this interview.
That's what the Prime Minister said.
Our standing in the world matters. If we want to strike trade deals with countries, and we've had great success in recent years in striking those trade deals in the last year, then we need to be a country that's taken seriously. We need to be a country that honours our obligations and honours the rule of law. Those are important principles. So we talk about, what the British people...
To be taken seriously, it'd be a good idea if we controlled our own borders, wouldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And that's what the British people want to see. That's what we're committed to delivering.
And we're not doing it. Numbers are going up.
One of the strongest traditions that we've always had as a country is around the rule of law. That matters. It matters that we have clear enforcement at the border. It matters that we have a clear set of rules around migration. We are toughening those up. The action that the Home Secretary has set out already on this around enforcement, we've removed more people this year who don't have the right to be here. We're processing more cases of asylum seekers more quickly. It is the reason that we're spending so much money on unsuitable accommodation, like hotels, is because for years what the Conservatives did was allow these cases to stack up. It's not right and proper. It's not fair. No,
you say that, but here's the problem. You say you want to get people out of asylum hotels, but you went to court this week to keep an asylum hotel in Epping open. Can you see why, for the average person, it's not clear what you're actually for? You say one thing, but you do another.
I don't want to see large numbers of people accommodated in asylum hotels. I understand how frustrating it is, and I understand how the impact that can have on local communities. That's why we are committed to ending the use of asylum hotels by the end of the Parliament. But we've got to do that in an orderly way. We can't end up with hundreds of people just out on the street because a hotel has closed. So yes, we'll do it. We'll do it carefully, we'll do it properly, and we will do it in an orderly way.
Is it Minister's view, as is said in the Home Office's submission to the judges on appeal, that the rights of asylum seekers trump the interests of local people who do not want those hotels to be open. It says so in terms in the Home Office's submission. Do ministers agree that the rights of asylum seekers trump those of local people?
What we believe is that the Home Secretary and the government have a responsibility to make sure that we are doing our job in processing cases, in accommodating those in the interim who've come to our country. The decision that we saw arising out of the Epping case would have had bigger consequences right across the country that would have led to wider consequences in terms of disruption that would have caused. Look, it's far from ideal. Look, I don't want to be in the place of defending it.
That's what the judges said, but that's not an answer to the question I asked you. Do you agree with the Home Office's submission that the rights of asylum seekers are more significant, more material than the interests of the local populations?
It is about a balance of rights. When people come to this country and claim asylum, we have a responsibility as a government to assess their cases and to process them. For those who have got a clear right to be here, for those who have evidenced what they are facing in terms of persecution, refugees, then that will be decided. Where they don't, then we will take action to remove people from the country. So we do have a responsibility to process those cases. And yes,
and
to
the
provide,
responsibility to those asylum seekers is more important than the responsibility to those who live locally.
Our responsibility to those who live locally is also important as well. And I completely understand why many people in places like Epping, where hotels have opened up, feel incredibly frustrated about that. They have a right, of course, to demonstrate lawfully and peacefully. Of course, where it crosses a line, that isn't consistent with our long-standing traditions in this country of respect for the rule of law, respect for the police,
hang on.
and our responsibility to make sure that we have safe communities for everybody living there. And given what is alleged to have happened in Epping, I appreciate this is an ongoing case, so I won't go too far in saying much about this. Given what is alleged to have happened, I can understand the concern that causes to local residents.
And can you understand that what you've just said to someone who lives in one of these towns, Epping or Diss or wherever it is, you said that it's the government's responsibility to balance the rights, as they would put it, of people who've just arrived, made no contribution to this country, against the rights of those who've lived here forever, who pay their taxes, who want their towns to be safe and tranquil. And your view is that these two things, these two sets of people, are equivalent, and you can balance the rights. Can you see how infuriating that must feel to somebody in one of these towns?
I completely understand how frustrating and how angry people will often feel about the use of asylum hotels.
No, that's not what I'm asking about. I'm asking about your view that their interests have to be balanced. That's a different question. Can you see how people would be angry about that?
I do, and we wouldn't be starting from here. Look, I don't want to be in the position of having a number of asylum hotels across the country in operation. That number is coming down. We've got much further to go, and we will close them by the end of this Parliament. And I know people don't like us, even a year in, as a government, saying, this is what we inherited. This is what we inherited, right? There was a widespread use of asylum hotels by the Conservatives that increased enormously at enormous cost to the taxpayer.
Yeah, you keep going back to the Conservatives. I want to ask you...
Yes, but it won't be a quick fix. We will sort it.
Your lawyers, under your guidance, have said in terms that the rights of asylum seekers are more important than the rights of local people in Epping Forest. Would you at least acknowledge that that is what they will hear? And it's up to you. Ministers can say, we agree with that, or we don't agree with it. You can't simply say, let's balance things. Do you agree with what your lawyers said, or don't you?
Yes, of course we do. But what I would add is that whilst I recognise the quite obvious and legitimate concerns that people have about use of asylum hotels, had we not acted in the way that the Home Secretary did around that case, we would have ended up with lots of disruption in terms of what that would have meant around asylum hotels. We will close them, but we will close them in an orderly way, not just where we turf people out on the streets in significant numbers.